All that being said, though, we still haven't talked about the fight. Cyborg versus Felicia Spencer.
Yeah,
How
so
about Felicia Spencer?
she's a tough motherfucker. Tough motherfucker.
Good Lord.
The crazy thing was that Cyborg was landing shots, but you couldn't tell from her face.
Right.
She didn't look cut up.
Right.
She wasn't bleeding. Cyborg was bleeding.
Yeah.
Spencer didn't look like it that all. So she's a tough motherfucker.
Cyborg was hitting her with all kinds of stuff. She was hitting her with hard punches. She was hitting her with like over the top elbows. She was hitting her with hard knees against the cage. Yeah. She landed a couple kicks, like actual body kicks. Not to mention when Felicia, I don't know if she actually tried to pull guard or if there was some sort of slip there or something, but Cyborg ended up on top and landed some bombs.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Yeah, it was a great fight.
Here's the thing: not only did she take a bunch of punches, right? She, I mean, I don't feel like she executed her game plan as well as she probably could have.
For sure.
She did show that she's got a lot of strength. Put her up against the cage, which I'm sure was part of the game plan. But at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if her goal was to eventually take her down to the ground and start to grapple, which she didn't really get a chance to do. But she did do a couple things that were impressive to me. Obviously, landing that elbow was a beauty. She started mixing in some of her crazy kicks towards the end, like the middle rounds and towards the end. And then on top of that, she can obviously take a punch, and she really looks like a natural featherweight. Which I guess right now that we're talking about Cyborg leaving, Megan Anderson, who obviously lost to Felicia Spencer, we can kind of take her out of the conversation for the time being. And if Amanda Nunes, I mean, we just said that she is a two-weight champion. She's more of a natural bantamweight, though.
For sure.
If she's in the bantamweight division and Cyborg leaves, Felicia Spencer's out of the conversation. Felicia Spencer may very well be the future of the featherweight division in the UFC.
Yeah, and well, unless the UFC goes crazy and signing fighters for that division, we'll see what happens.
I mean, they've got to.
Yeah. I think Spencer really is a tough fucking, I want to say bitch, but I don't want to be disrespectful.
Right, yeah.
She's a tough badass.
Yep.
And was that her second fight in the UFC?
It was her second fight in the UFC in as many months almost,
right.
I think.
I think we'll see her again.
Oh, 100%.
See her again. There's no question.
100%.
With that being said, let's talk about Holloway and Frankie Edgar.
My gosh.
So my prediction early on was I thought Holloway was going to end up taking this fight.
Mm-hmm.
But did Frankie Edgar look good?
Okay, not only did he look good.
Yeah.
You add on top of that, the man is 37 years old.
37 years old.
In a lighter weight class.
He looked smaller.
He did.
I mean, it's obvious what Holloway's
Max is a pretty big guy.
He's 5'11", Max Holloway. I think Frankie Edgar was 5'6".
Yeah.
So he looked small.
Right.
But he hung in there. I mean, he was giving shots.
Man.
He was the first round. He was really getting at him. He was being the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
He was landing some clean punches. Now Max on the first round was being a little bit more smart. He wasn't being too aggressive.
You know what it reminded me of?
He was more of being like a counter puncher.
Yeah.
From what I saw.
Right.
But that first round was close.
Right.
From then on, I felt like Max really took the fight in
his own hands. It was kind of interesting. I expected Max to open up a little bit sooner than he did, and it kind of reminded me of the first time that he fought Jose Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and watch that first Jose Aldo fight, Max kind of took a little while to open up. But that's the thing, though, about Max is that as soon as he starts getting going, it like snowballs.
Yeah.
He starts to pour it on.
For sure.
Pour it on. But man, oh man, don't get me wrong, Max still put on a masterclass and definitively won.
He did.
You know,
and there were rounds where he completely dominated.
Not to say that Frankie didn't put up a great fight, but
no, exactly.
But my God, did Frankie look good for a 37-year-old dude in the featherweight division? Because something you and I talk about a lot is how much age being a factor changes as you go up in weight classes. You know, I mean,
I think age in general does play a part in the fight game.
But like a 40-year-old in the heavyweight division, in my opinion, is different than a 40-year-old in the flyweight division.
I can see that. Yeah, that would make sense.
Speed, stuff like that is a factor. But I mean, you take a look at the heavyweight champion of the world right now; he's in his 40s.
DC, I know he's still a killer.
You know, but yeah, man, holy cow, Frankie still looked like he had a gas tank, which is super impressive. He's obviously got all the techniques. He's got all the heart, and normally when we get to this point, right, I mean, let's be real here. Going into this fight, the dialogue was because there was a lot of controversy about Frankie getting the fight over Alex Volkanovski, and a lot of people saying, well, like, let Frankie have his moment to shine before he's out.
Correct.
And that was the conversation, right? It was
Yeah.
like, this guy's on his way out, and let him have his thing before he retires and all this and that. And usually when we're in this situation with fighters of this age, fighting in fights that people have their eyes on, after a loss, we're all talking about, like, it's time to hang him up, all this and that. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but at 37 years old, after this loss, I still think Frankie has at least 2-3 fights in him.
Yeah.
He looked great. I mean, as far as, like, him still being game.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I still think he can get in there with a lot of younger guys at 145, debatably at 135, and be competitive.
So you don't think he should go down to 135? You believe he should stick to 145?
I'll be honest. I don't have a strong enough knowledge base to make that call, because, I mean, not only are we talking about two completely different sets of competition, right, in those rankings, in those two weight divisions, how much does it affect him, that he hasn't cut to that weight in some... well, has he ever fought at 135?
No. I know he fought 155 and then 145. I don't think he fought at 135, but I could be mistaken.
Okay, so if he's going to a new weight class, right, and he's cutting more weight than he's used to, it's so tough to say, what he would look like at that weight and whether or not it would be the right move. But I will say this. I don't think that even because of this loss and the size advantage or whatever and the current level of competition, I don't think that it's a necessity for him to move out of the featherweight division. I think he can still be competitive with some guys in there.
The thing about that, though, is, like, he just looks small compared to everyone. He looks small against Brian Ortega. He's going to look small against Holloway. There are guys who are just maybe as tall as him. Jeremy Stevens, I want to say,
I think he's a little taller.
A little taller, but, I mean, you don't see that big, tall advantage compared to, like, Holloway and Ortega.
But I will say this. I don't think... I mean... I don't think that the size was that big of an issue for him.
No. So I just felt like Holloway was clearly the better fighter. And it didn't matter what size Edgar would be in.
Right.
Holloway's just a better fighter overall.
The best is
and
blessed,
he was going to end up winning that fight.
Right.
That's not a knock on Frankie.
Right.
But I just think Holloway's at a different level. And he said that post-fight interview. Edgar says Holloway's just a killer. He's just a different breed.
Right.
And so there's nothing he could have done.
Right.
So I still think Frankie still has fights in him left. Whether that's at 145 or if Dana wants to push him towards 135, who knows? But I was impressed from what I saw Frankie. Holloway's just fucking a beast. I mean, I don't know how else you can say it. He's a beast.
And now the curious thing is, when do we see him fight again? Because I think the consensus is that he should fight...
See who fighting
Max. I think the consensus is that he fights Alexander Volkanovski next. That's who my pick would be for the next fight for him. But when do we see it? Do we see it in October in Melbourne on that big huge stadium card?
So if I'm his manager, I'd push him to fight November and December, because like he just fought 2 months ago against Poirier. Then he turns back around in a war.
He didn't come out of that fight unscathed.
Then he turns back around and go against Edgar.
Right.
And now you're asking him to turn around again in 2 months
to fight a tough opponent.
Give the motherfucker some rest. Like, come on. Okay?
Which this might be some controversy here. We've just spent the last several minutes just raving about how great Max Holloway is. I give Alexander Volkanovski a real chance.
I'd give any fighter a real chance. This is a fight game.
Right.
At any given moment, any fighter can win a fight.
Right.
But if you're asking me to put my money on someone, I'm putting it on Max until I see someone that's clearly more skillful than Holloway, and I haven't. Other than obviously what we saw on Poirier, but even then I voted Holloway to win that fight. But
I feel like Alexander Volkanovski though has characteristics that would suit him well in a fight versus Max. So I hope we see.
We'll see.
Right.
What I'm seeing.
I hope we see that fight next, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
Until we.
I think that's going to be the fight next.
100%.
I think he's the next one in line for the 145, and Holloway's going to do what he's going to do and defend that belt, but. Yeah, I think the next fight for him is to defend his title once again at 145.
Right.
But I hope it's in November, December.
However, and both Dana White and Max were non-committal about having him on that card, rightfully so. For the Melbourne card,
okay,
which is the Robert Whittaker Israel Adesanya card.
Correct.
But for a card that is billing out to be the biggest fight in UFC history in terms of scope, because before this it's UFC 193, Ronda versus Holly Holm. Attendance was somewhere in the.
So you're just saying it based off attendance?
Yeah, based on attendance.
Then I can agree with that.
And how the magnitude of what it would mean to MMA in that part of the world, because the last time we're talking in the mid 50s, attendance was 54,000, something like that. Yeah. But the headliner was Ronda versus Holly, which really didn't have anything to do with that part of the world. In this scenario, you're talking about the main event being a guy from Australia who's an Australian champion and an absolute murderer in Robert Whittaker versus this super flashy, talkative, superstar overnight almost fighter from New Zealand in Israel Adesanya, right? This, not only in terms of attendance, but in what it means to that part of the world, is going to be the biggest fight.
I think that would be the biggest fight for Australia.
Now that we're talking about this, can you imagine just how massive it would be to have Max versus Alexander Volkanovski as the co-main on that card?
That would be a big fight card.
It would be insanity.
Yeah, those two alone would be a huge fight card.
Right, that would be insanity.
Yeah. But you're definitely right. I think Whittaker and Israel would be the biggest fight for Australia.
100%.
That doesn't mean it's the biggest fight for Americans. And who?
Anzac. It's New Zealand and Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Anzac.
That would be the biggest fight for them. That's a great fight overall. But yeah, I mean, that's an exciting fight.